There are women who marry far from home, and for 10 years after, they never dared to cry. Not because they weren't sad, but because they wouldn't allow themselves to be weak. This story isn't a rare tragedy. It's the quiet reality for thousands of Vietnamese women. Marrying far from home, a seemingly simple decision, often leads to long days of challenges, loneliness, and suppressed tears. It's not just a geographical move, but a significant shift in psychology, emotions, and even personal identity. When a girl decides to marry far away, she understands she'll no longer have her parents by her side to share daily joys and sorrows, no longer the familiar market where she finds a bit of peace, and especially no one to lean on, to be vulnerable with when life becomes too much to bear. Instead, she faces an entirely new environment, an unfamiliar in-law family, different customs, and scrutinizing eyes. She's alone amidst strangers, alone giving birth, alone battling all the pressures of being a daughter-in-law, a wife, and a mother. So what makes a woman suppress her emotions so much that she can't even cry for an entire decade? Is it extraordinary strength or a silent tragedy hidden behind forced smiles and a resilient exterior? The answer lies deep within the corners of the soul, where nameless wounds fester year after year. Titu, the price of marrying far from home. Marrying far from home isn't just leaving your hometown. It's a profound trade-off that few can fully comprehend. Before entering such a marriage, many young girls often only see love and sweet promises, forgetting the practical aspects, the invisible costs they'll have to pay. Things people don't tell you before marriage. Who will care for you when you give birth? This is a question few couples ask when deeply in love. During pregnancy, a woman's body changes, and her mind becomes more sensitive than ever. Childbirth itself is a real battle, demanding care and nurturing for both physical and mental well-being. Without her own mother beside her, without sisters to confide in, a woman will have to face physical pain and postpartum emotional crises alone. No matter how much the in-laws love her, they can't fully understand these feelings like her blood relatives can. If something happens to your birth parents, can you get home in time? This is a constant, nagging worry for daughters who marry far from home, when parents are old and frail, or when an unexpected event occurs back home. Will anyone understand her urgency and anxiety? Will she be allowed to leave all her responsibilities at her husband's home to rush to her parents' side in their most crucial moment? The helplessness of not being able to be with her parents when they need her most leaves a big scar on her soul. Cultural and lifestyle differences. Each region has different customs, traditions, and even culinary tastes. A girl from the north marrying into the south, or vice versa, will have to learn to adapt to everything, from daily meals, speech patterns, to family etiquette. These differences, if not harmonized, can easily cause minor misunderstandings and conflicts that accumulate into significant pressure. The dutiful daughter-in-law, capable wife culture, prevents women from expressing emotions. In East Asian society in general, and Vietnam in particular, the image of an ideal woman is often associated with being a dutiful daughter-in-law and capable wife. She must know how to manage household chores, care for her husband and children, show filial piety to her in-laws, and especially always maintain a composed demeanor, not complaining, not showing weakness. For women who marry far from home, this pressure becomes even heavier. They're afraid of being labeled weak, unfit for family life, or worthless to their in-laws if they accidentally reveal a bit of sadness or fatigue. They don't dare to cry, don't dare to complain for fear of being judged or criticized. Instead of seeking empathy, they tell themselves, "Just be strong. No one will understand if I cry anyway." They build an invisible wall around themselves, hiding their true emotions, and day by day, these sorrows accumulate. Marrying far from home isn't just about geographical distance. It's also about losing emotional support. This is the most crucial point when discussing the price of marrying far from home. When you're no longer near your birth family, you lose not only warm family meals, but also the safest place for you to be yourself. Your mother is the one who will comfort you when you're sad, and your father is the one who will listen without judgment. Siblings are the people you can confide in about anything, no matter how silly. When you marry far from home, you're often alone. The new people in your in-laws' family, no matter how much they love you, cannot replace the bond of blood. They may not fully understand your thoughts and feelings, or you may not dare to fully open up for fear of offending them or being judged. This lack of emotional support forces a woman to shoulder everything alone, to fight difficulties by herself, and to suppress all negative emotions. Chapter 3. 10 years without crying. Strength or a silent tragedy. 10 years without crying. It sounds extraordinary, remarkably strong. But what lies behind that strength? Could it be a silent tragedy that no one knows about, where tears have turned to stone in the soul? Stories of wanting to burst into tears when the child had a high fever and the husband didn't answer the phone. Late at night, the small child cried, and the mother was frantic with worry. She called her husband, but he was busy with work or asleep. In that moment, fear and helplessness overwhelmed her. Alone in the dark, holding her feverish child, the mother just wanted to burst into tears, wanting a shoulder to lean on, a hand to hold. But then reason told her, "You have to be strong. You have to take care of your child." The tears welling up were swallowed back down when her mother called, but she didn't dare say, "I'm so tired." Every call from her mother back home was filled with affectionate, worried questions. "Are you well? Are you eating enough? Is anyone bothering you?" Even when exhausted from work, family pressure, and sleepless nights caring for her child, the woman would force a smile and say, "I'm fine, Mom. I'm okay." She was afraid her mother would worry, afraid her mother would cry, afraid her mother would blame her for making the wrong choice. Her longing for home, her longing for her mother, welled up, but she didn't dare show even a hint of it. When she was criticized, misunderstood, and had no one to confide in, marital life inevitably has moments of conflict, unintentional criticisms from her husband or mother-in-law. In such times, instead of being explained to, being understood, the woman chose to remain silent because there was no one to confide in, no one to share with, no one to comfort her. The resentment and self-pity grew, eating away at her heart. She wished she could go home to her mother, hug her and cry loudly, telling her all the grievances in her heart. But that was impossible. Not crying doesn't mean not hurting. Tears are a natural mechanism of the body to release emotions. When we're happy, we cry tears of joy. When we're sad, we cry to soothe the pain. Suppressing tears doesn't mean the pain doesn't exist. On the contrary, it only makes the pain more persistent, more chronic. 10 years without crying means 10 years living behind a facade of endurance. That woman has no safe place to be weak, to be herself. She constantly wears a mask of resilience, even when her soul is bleeding. The swallowed tears don't disappear. They solidify into cold stones in her heart, gradually making her emotionally numb, losing the ability to feel complete joy, and sometimes even losing herself. This strength isn't a conscious choice, but a compulsion from circumstances. It's a consequence of extreme loneliness, of the lack of stable emotional support. It's not a sign of power, but a silent cry for help. 4. What does a woman who marries far from home need most? After all she's been through, women who marry far from home don't need empty advice, lavish gifts, or generic encouragement. What they truly need are intangible values that have the power to heal all wounds. Not money, not gifts, but listening and understanding. In modern life, many men still believe that providing material needs is enough to fulfill their responsibilities. But for a woman who marries far from home, material gifts cannot fill the void in her soul. What she needs is a non-judgmental listener, someone who genuinely wants to understand what she's going through. A hug from her husband. Are you okay? I know you've been working hard. A simple question like, are you okay? From her husband can sometimes be worth 1,000 words. It shows care, attention to her feelings. A tight hug, a whispered, I know you've been working hard, can make all the resentment disappear. Her husband is her only anchor in a strange place, and his understanding is the most effective medicine for healing. Don't just see what your wife does. Look into her eyes, see the hidden fatigue. Empathy from her mother-in-law. I know you also have your parents, your family, your own longing for home. The mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship is always a challenge. But for a daughter-in-law who marries far from home, empathy from her mother-in-law is invaluable. A statement like, I know you also have your parents, your family, your own longing for home, can make the daughter-in-law feel shared and accepted. This not only reduces pressure, but also helps her feel like a true part of the new family, not an outsider. This understanding helps build a good, lasting relationship where the daughter-in-law can open up and find comfort. A space to cry without judgment, without blame. Most importantly, a woman who marries far from home needs a safe space to be vulnerable, to cry without fear of being judged, without being blamed for being weak or unreasonable. It could be her husband's embrace, her mother-in-law's comforting words, or simply a small corner in the room where she can shed all her burdens. When allowed to express true emotions, pain is released and the soul is healed. Suppressing emotions for too long can lead to serious psychological damage, even depression. V. If given a choice. Again, I'd still marry my husband, but not far from home. If time could turn back, would these women make a different decision? Would they choose another path where they wouldn't have to endure such silent pain? If they could have thought deeper, chosen more carefully back then, would things be different? This is a haunting question many women who marry far from home often ask themselves. When young, love often overshadows all reason. They believe that love can overcome all barriers, all difficulties. They don't anticipate the invisible pressures, the gnawing loneliness that marrying far from home brings. If they could have thought deeper, if they could have looked further into the future, perhaps many would have chosen a different path, not because they don't love their current husband, but because they want to protect themselves, to live a more fulfilling life, to be near their loved ones so they can share all joys and sorrows. They might still marry the person they love, but they would find a way not to live far from their family, or at least be more thoroughly prepared mentally and emotionally. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a loving in-law family. Sad stories of daughters-in-law being oppressed or mistreated when marrying far from home are not uncommon. Not everyone is lucky enough to have an understanding, loving in-law family. When there are no birth parents nearby to shelter and protect them, women who marry far from home become incredibly vulnerable. They have to face all difficulties alone, and sometimes they have to accept unfair treatment to maintain family harmony. The lack of strong backing makes them afraid to speak up, afraid to resist, and thus they accept their fate. Women need to learn to love themselves before entering marriage. The biggest lesson from these stories is that women need to learn to love and protect themselves. Before entering a marriage, especially a marriage to someone far away, think very carefully and look at all aspects realistically. Don't let love blind you. Don't let empty promises overshadow potential risks. Ask yourself, am I strong enough to face all of this? Am I willing to sacrifice everything to live in a strange place? And most importantly, will I be loved and cherished enough to make up for the disadvantages? Don't let getting married equate to losing yourself entirely. Many women who marry far from home realize after a while that they've lost themselves. They no longer have their own hobbies, no close friends, no time for themselves. Their lives revolve solely around their in-laws' family, children, and countless unnamed chores. Such great sacrifice without recognition or understanding will gradually erode their souls, leaving them feeling empty and lost. Getting married shouldn't be about abandoning yourself, but about growth, about building a new life together. A happy marriage is when both partners nurture and respect each other's individual values. 6. Conclusion: a hug for the women who never dared to cry. The story of women who marry far from home, who didn't dare to cry for 10 years, is a testament to ultimate resilience, but also a poignant reminder of the silent tragedies in marital life. To all women living quietly, patiently, you are not alone. Many other women are going through similar experiences. Your pain is real, and you deserve to be heard and understood. You have been incredibly strong carrying everything alone, but that strength doesn't mean you have to bury your emotions. You are not alone. You deserve to cry, to be loved, and to live as yourself. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Find a trustworthy person to share with, to confide in. Find a safe space for your tears to fall. Those tears are not a sign of weakness, but a way for you to release the burden in your heart, for you to heal. A gentle message: if you're married far from home, please remember, no one has the right to forbid you from being vulnerable. Love yourself first. Be brave enough to speak up when you need help, when you feel tired. A happy marriage is built on a foundation of understanding, sharing, and respect. Don't let invisible pressures turn you into a shadow of yourself. You deserve to live a full life with all your truest emotions, and sometimes one tear can release a decade of suppression.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.